My stepmother made a calculated and deliberate attempt to seize control of the college fund that my father had thoughtfully and meticulously established to support my higher education. Following her manipulative maneuvers, she orchestrated my expulsion from our home by falsely and maliciously accusing me of serious misconduct. At 18 years old, I find myself ensnared in an incredibly challenging and emotionally draining predicament with my stepmother, Megan, a 40-year-old woman. This entire ordeal revolves around the college fund my dad had generously set aside for my future, and it's compelling me to question everything I once believed. The circumstances are intricate and layered, so I ask for your patience as I unravel the complexities of this deeply personal and multifaceted conflict. To provide some essential background, my parents underwent a bitter and tumultuous divorce when I was just 10 years old. The separation was fraught with intense emotions and left me feeling abandoned, lost, and profoundly isolated for an extended period. 5 years later, when I was 14, my father, who is 45, decided to remarry Megan. She brought along 2 children from her previous marriage, Jack, a 16-year-old boy, and Emma, a 13-year-old girl. Integrating into our already fractured and emotionally charged family dynamic was anything but smooth. Despite Megan's persistent and often overzealous efforts to present us as a united and joyful family, the reality was far from that. Our blended family never truly felt cohesive or harmonious, and the constant push for a big happy family narrative only deepened the sense of disconnect and underlying tension that simmered beneath the surface. Throughout high school, I was unwaveringly committed to my studies, consistently maintaining an impressive 3.8 GPA. My ultimate aspiration has always been to attend a prestigious university and pursue a degree in engineering. I was actively involved in the robotics club, where I not only participated but also led my team to victory in several competitions. Additionally, I dedicated 3 years to volunteering at the local animal shelter, further demonstrating my commitment to both academic and community endeavors. My father had always been my staunchest supporter, encouraging and backing my academic goals without hesitation, at least until a few months ago, when everything began to unravel in ways I couldn't have anticipated. As I embarked on the college application process, my father approached me for a heartfelt and earnest conversation. He revealed that he had been meticulously saving a substantial college fund for me since the day I was born. This fund was sizable enough to cover tuition fees and living expenses at some of the most esteemed and competitive universities in the country. I was elated, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment and validation for all my hard work and dedication. It seemed like my dreams were finally within reach. That evening, we spent countless hours discussing various universities, their engineering programs, and planning future campus visits. It was one of the most meaningful and uplifting conversations I had shared with my father in years, reinforcing my belief that my future was bright and secure. However, complications swiftly arose when Megan discovered the existence of this college fund. Initially, her approach was subtle and insidious, designed to sow seeds of doubt without raising immediate alarm. One morning, after my father had already departed for work, Megan cornered me in the kitchen. Her tone was ostensibly casual, but there was an unmistakable edge to her words that hinted at underlying motives. She began by reminiscing about her own college experience, mentioning how she had to work her way through school, take out loans, and juggle part-time jobs to afford her education. She emphasized how these experiences had instilled in her a deep appreciation for money and financial responsibility. I attempted to deflect her comments by mentioning that I, too, was planning to take on a part-time job to cover any additional expenses. However, Megan countered my response by suggesting that with the substantial financial support my father had provided, I wouldn't really need to work. From that point forward, Megan's remarks became increasingly frequent and pointed, gradually shifting from subtle hints to overt criticisms. She began sharing stories of self-made individuals during our family dinners, always directing a critical gaze toward me. She would recount how her friend's son was juggling 3 jobs to finance his engineering degree, or how her cousin had swiftly paid off her student loans and had become a successful entrepreneur. These narratives became a regular feature at our dinner table, consistently accompanied by comments about the importance of responsibility and the virtue of hard work. My father, seemingly oblivious to the underlying implications, continued to support Megan without addressing the insinuation that I was somehow less responsible or diligent for accepting his financial help. The situation took a darker and more troubling turn when Megan started to manipulate my father behind the scenes. I overheard her having a conversation with him about how providing me with the full college fund might hinder my personal growth or make me overly dependent on financial assistance. She persistently advocated for the idea that I should work my way through college or take out loans, just like many others. One evening, I unintentionally overheard them discussing this issue in their bedroom. Megan expressed her worries about me becoming lazy due to the generous fund, suggesting that it might be prudent to reduce the amount or limit it solely to tuition payments, excluding living expenses. To my horror, my father seemed to waver, acknowledging that Megan might have a point about the importance of earning things through effort. This sudden and unexpected shift in my father's stance was devastating. He began to question the viability of the full fund, contemplating reducing it or restricting it solely to tuition. It felt as though he had forgotten all our prior discussions about my future and the unwavering support he had promised. I attempted to confide in my mother about this troubling development, but communication between her and my father had significantly dwindled over the years. When I explained the situation over the phone, she reacted with anger, urging me to stand up for myself and not let Megan dominate. While her advice was well-intentioned, it didn't provide practical help for the daily tensions and conflicts that plagued our household. Last week, the situation reached an unbearable breaking point. I overheard Megan speaking to Jack in the kitchen, revealing her plan to divert a portion of his college fund to secure her own future. She justified this by claiming it was unfair that Jack and Emma were receiving substantial sums while I and Emma were not. The blatant injustice of her actions enraged me. I couldn't believe she was not only trying to take away my college fund but was actively reallocating it to benefit her own children. Overwhelmed by a surge of anger, I confronted her in the kitchen. Megan was taken aback initially, but I was too furious to listen to her explanations. She attempted to justify her actions by claiming she was ensuring fairness among all the children in the family, but I stood my ground, insisting that it was my father's money intended solely for my education. Megan became hostile, accusing me of selfishness and suggesting that I should consider attending community college if I was so concerned about money. Her audacity infuriated me further. I glanced at Jack, hoping for some support, but he appeared uncomfortable and avoided eye contact, clearly torn between his mother and me. Determined to address the issue, I told Megan I would speak to my father about her actions. She smirked, reminding me that she and my father made decisions together for the family's best interest. Frustrated and feeling deeply betrayed, I left the kitchen, desperate to have a serious and meaningful conversation with my father. However, every attempt I made to speak with him alone was thwarted by Megan's constant presence, which made meaningful dialogue impossible. The ensuing days were fraught with tension and emotional strain. Megan acted as if nothing was amiss, but her smug demeanor and pointed remarks about financial responsibility kept stoking my anger and frustration. My father remained passive, occasionally adding his own stories about hard work, seemingly ignoring the underlying conflict that was tearing our family apart. I felt more isolated than ever, as Jack and Emma also distanced themselves, likely influenced by their mother's manipulative narratives. In a final bid to assert myself and reclaim some semblance of control, I dedicated myself to my college applications, applying for as many scholarships as possible as a backup plan. One evening, I managed to corner my father alone in his study. I expressed my concerns about Megan's attempts to alter the college fund, emphasizing that we had a plan and he had promised his unwavering support. His reaction was mixed. He acknowledged Megan's points about responsibility but seemed conflicted about reversing his support. I felt betrayed, insisting that I had worked hard and deserved the fund as promised. My father, visibly uncomfortable, reiterated his pride in me but hinted at reconsidering the fund based on Megan's input. Before he could fully respond, Megan entered the room, feigning concern and suggesting that we all discuss more affordable schools together. Her attempt to mediate was disingenuous, and I left the study feeling utterly defeated and disheartened. It was evident that Megan had succeeded in undermining my prospects of attending a top university, effectively sabotaging my dreams through her manipulative tactics. Adding to the complexity, Megan had never held a job outside the home since marrying my father. She frequently preached about financial independence while relying entirely on my father's income. When I pointed out this glaring hypocrisy, she defensively claimed that being a stay-at-home mom was the most important and commendable role one could have. Additionally, Megan ignored the fact that my father had established the college fund long before she became part of our family and overlooked that Jack and Emma's biological father was still actively involved in their lives and could potentially contribute to their education. In an attempt to find common ground and propose a reasonable solution, I suggested taking on a part-time job during college to cover some expenses, thereby demonstrating my commitment to financial responsibility. However, Megan dismissed this as irresponsible, believing that unless I was financially struggling, I wasn't learning the necessary lessons about hard work and self-sufficiency. My father, caught in the middle of this conflict, seemed to avoid confronting Megan directly, likely a pattern from his previous marriage that contributed to its eventual dissolution. Desperate for support and feeling increasingly cornered, I contemplated reaching out to my grandparents, who were never fond of Megan. However, I feared that involving them would only escalate the family drama and create even more tension. Megan continued to promote a false narrative of a happy and unified family, treating Jack and Emma differently and never questioning their financial habits or lecturing them about responsibility, further highlighting her manipulative nature. I began to suspect that Megan's aggressive stance on my college fund was part of a larger scheme to divert funds for personal gains, such as funding a lavish family vacation, renovating the house, or securing education funds for Jack and Emma. Although I had no concrete evidence to support this suspicion, the nagging doubt gnawed at me relentlessly. Megan also frequently reminded me to be grateful for everything she and my father had done, despite it being primarily my father's sacrifices that had afforded me this opportunity. The situation escalated when Megan started gaslighting me, saying one thing in private and completely denying it in front of my father, making me question my own memories and sanity. I became increasingly anxious that pushing back against Megan would lead my father to sever ties with me, especially since I was approaching adulthood and they would no longer be legally obligated to support me. I felt torn between standing up for myself and preserving my relationship with my father, fearing that either choice would lead to significant personal and familial consequences. My frustration stemmed not from feeling entitled to the fund, but from the abrupt change in plans and the profound betrayal by someone I once considered part of my family. As weeks passed, Megan's manipulation intensified. She continued to undermine my efforts and influence my father, making it nearly impossible to communicate with him without her interference. My friends and I grew more concerned as I was eventually forced to leave my home, now living in my friend Mike's guest room after my father formally cut me out. Mike offered his place as a temporary refuge, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being a burden. I struggled to adjust to life outside my home, grappling with anger, despair, and the overwhelming sense of injustice. My academic dreams seemed to be slipping away due to Megan's relentless manipulation, leaving me to navigate this emotional and financial turmoil largely on my own. In the midst of this chaos, I reached out to my grandparents, who were skeptical of Megan from the start. Their support was a beacon of hope, and they promised to intervene by confronting my father with the truth. Their involvement added another layer of complexity, threatening to upend the fragile dynamics within our family even further. As the situation spiraled out of control, Megan's false accusations reached my grandparents, forcing them to take a definitive stand. They confronted my father with compelling evidence of Megan's deceit, including text messages and emails that exposed her affair with her ex-husband, who is also Emma and Jack's biological father. This revelation was a turning point, leading to my father's realization of Megan's manipulative tactics and the extent of her betrayal. The fallout from these revelations was immediate and severe. Megan's attempts to salvage her reputation and manipulate the situation only further alienated her from everyone involved. My father, now fully aware of the truth, sought to rectify the damage by filing for divorce and attempting to restore my relationship with him. However, the legal battle was arduous and prolonged, with Megan fighting aggressively to secure as much as she could before the divorce was finalized. Throughout this harrowing ordeal, I felt a mix of relief that the truth was finally coming to light and anger that it took such a profound betrayal to uncover it. Rebuilding trust with my father was a slow and painful process, but the unwavering support from my grandparents and friends like Mike provided some solace. As the dust settled, it became clear that Megan's manipulations had far-reaching consequences, tearing apart the family and leaving deep emotional scars. Now, as I work towards rebuilding my life and focusing on my education, the experience has taught me resilience and the importance of seeking support from those who truly care. While the future remains uncertain, the truth has set me free from the lies that once held me back, allowing me to move forward with a clearer vision of my goals and the strength to overcome the challenges that lie ahead. A few weeks after my grandparents intervened, my father finally reached out to me. His voice was shaky, filled with a mix of regret and sorrow. He expressed his deep remorse for not standing by me earlier and acknowledged how Megan had manipulated him into believing those false accusations. The reconciliation was tentative, but it marked the beginning of mending our fractured relationship. We started attending family therapy sessions together, aiming to heal the wounds inflicted by Megan's deceit and to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. As the divorce proceedings continued, Megan's true colors were further exposed. The evidence of her affair and manipulation worked in our favor, making it difficult for her to secure any significant financial gains from the settlement. The judge, recognizing the extent of her deceit, ruled in favor of my father, awarding him the majority of the assets and denying Megan's claims for substantial financial support. This legal victory was a small but significant step toward reclaiming the stability and security that Megan had threatened to destroy. Throughout this entire journey, my grandparents remained steadfast in their support. They provided not only emotional backing but also financial assistance to ensure that my education was not compromised. Their unwavering belief in my innocence and their willingness to stand up against Megan's lies reinforced the importance of family bonds and the strength that comes from having a solid support system. In the months that followed, life gradually began to stabilize. My father and I worked diligently to rebuild our relationship, navigating the delicate balance of forgiveness and accountability. The therapy sessions were challenging but invaluable, allowing us to confront the pain and mistrust that had accumulated over the past few months. Slowly but surely, we began to find common ground and understanding, laying the foundation for a healthier and more supportive relationship. Meanwhile, I continued to focus on my academic goals with renewed determination. The ordeal had only strengthened my resolve to pursue my dream of studying engineering at a top-tier university. With the financial burden lifted and my father's full support restored, I was able to apply to the schools that I had always aspired to attend. The experience had taught me resilience, resourcefulness, and the importance of standing up for myself, qualities that would serve me well in both my academic and personal life. Looking back, the entire situation felt like a relentless storm that tested every aspect of my character and resilience. The betrayal by someone I once trusted deeply was a harsh lesson in the complexities of blended families and the importance of safeguarding one's dreams against manipulation and deceit. However, the unwavering support from my grandparents and friends like Mike highlighted the significance of surrounding oneself with genuine and trustworthy individuals who can provide solace and strength in times of crisis. As the legal proceedings finally concluded, with Megan facing the consequences of her actions, a sense of closure began to take hold. The divorce was finalized, and the court's ruling ensured that my father's and my financial stability remained intact. Megan's attempts to manipulate the situation had ultimately backfired, leaving her isolated and stripped of any semblance of the family unity she had so desperately tried to fabricate. With the truth finally unveiled and the lies laid bare, my father and I found ourselves in a position to rebuild and move forward. The process was slow and filled with challenges, but the progress we made together was a testament to the enduring bond between father and son. The experience had not only strengthened our relationship but also equipped me with the tools to navigate future challenges with confidence and grace. As I prepare to embark on the next chapter of my life, heading to a prestigious university to study engineering, I carry with me the lessons learned from this tumultuous period. The ordeal taught me the importance of resilience, the value of genuine support, and the necessity of standing up for one's dreams in the face of adversity. While the scars of this experience will always remain, they serve as a reminder of the strength I possess and the unwavering support system that helped me emerge from the storm. To everyone who has followed my story and offered their support and advice, I extend my deepest gratitude. Your kind words and encouragement have been a lifeline during the darkest moments of this ordeal. As I move forward, I remain hopeful and determined, knowing that I have the resilience to overcome any challenges that lie ahead. Thank you for being part of this journey with me, and I look forward to sharing more positive updates as I continue to rebuild and pursue my dreams. Your unwavering support has been invaluable, and it continues to inspire me to strive for a brighter future despite the obstacles I've faced.